Hello, I am coming to you live today at a new time, which is Saturday afternoon, and the reason why I decided to shoot a live video today is because I am just now getting back from the homeless shelter because last Saturday we started our programs again. And I'm very excited about that, and I am just coming on here to tell you all what last Saturday and this Saturday has been like. And it was really awesome. It was great to see the children again. Most of the children that we had seen at the shelter on back in February are still at the shelter, and as usual that was bittersweet because we love seeing them, and at the same time it was sad that they're still at the shelter. The way it was explained to me is that they're at the shelter because most of their parents or caretakers that they were at the shelter with or are at the shelter with work blue-collar jobs, and those jobs were taken away from them due to COVID. So they're still at the shelter, so it was really nice to reconnect with them. And we are conducting draw change outside in their backyard. Luckily, the shelter has a beautiful and very large backyard, and we're keeping social distancing practices, and everyone's wearing masks, including even down to the children. Everyone has temperature checks, the volunteers as well as the children. I'm given a sheet of paper with all the children's temperature checks, and the last time they were taken. We sanitize their hands before they enter the area and the backyard. So we have 1,000,001 safety precautions that are being taken, and also we had left supplies there, and they were sanitized for us by the homeless shelter. And usually we sit at the table with the children. Right now we're not sitting with them. We're standing just near their table, still keeping the 6 feet distancing, but working alongside with them as best as we could. We are not able to do anything complex, like no painting, or not even anything that requires scissors or glue where a child might need help. So pretty much last week we just worked with markers, and this week we just worked with crayons and colored pencils. One thing I did want to mention and talk about is the projects that we conducted last week and this week. Last week it was we were really focusing on our inner qualities and what we love the most about ourselves, and that's what we were drawing. And this week we were focusing on our imagination session that we do before every single session, consisted of how we feel about coronavirus and what emotions that brings up and where in our body and how does it feel. And then we imagine that we woke up this morning or tomorrow morning and the virus didn't exist anymore, and what emotions that brings up in your body and where, and what does that feel like. And that's what we drew. So the drawing prompt was that you cannot use any words or symbols, that you just are using color, and it was really, really interesting. I'll be posting on Draw Change's page some of their creations. I took photos of all their creations today, and one child drew, instead of a sun, like something that looks like a virus up in the sky, and then that's on the bottom left hand corner, and on the bottom right hand corner she drew herself with like a bottle of like sanitizer, and she was fighting the virus, and she was explaining that she won, and so when she woke up in the imagination session, the virus had ceased to exist because she was spraying it. Two children that were not sitting close together, so they didn't copy each other, drew. It was very interesting because they folded their paper, both in different ways, but they folded their paper, and on one side their paper was filled with like sky blue and whites and pinks, and on the other side it was pure black. And those were the two emotions that they were depicting on how they felt right now during coronavirus, and how they felt afterwards when they imagined that coronavirus didn't exist. So it's just so amazing to me when I see things like that. You know, I didn't teach them that dark colors represent darkness and represent some heavy emotions or intentionality, things like that, and these light colors represent happiness and airiness and confidence. I didn't teach them that. You know, I would vouch to say that they haven't learned that, but it's an intuition. So it's really interesting how art can be used as therapy, and how their emotions are so easily transposed onto a sheet of paper. So it was awesome. That's what I'm here to say. We are slowly, very, very slowly contacting all of our programs around the United States and around the world, seeing if they're interested in this new method of draw change that we're conducting here at this one homeless shelter in Atlanta. Some have the policies in place and the structure in place where they can handle something like this, and some do not. And it's also up to if I have the volunteers to go with me, if I have enough interest in the area of the program where, you know, we have help, because we need help. We still need the same amount. Well, we don't need the same amount of volunteers, because since no volunteers can be sitting, and volunteers also have to maintain the social distancing, and also where we're in mass, so you have to talk loud. I mean, there's a lot that goes behind it. But we had 15 children last week and this week, and we had 4 volunteers, and that was plenty. So if you are interested in volunteering, interested in learning more about what we're doing, by all means, leave me a comment. And also, I posted this on my my feed a few days ago that we are going to try to do this in all of our programs around the world. But right now, like I mentioned, we're just at this one program in Atlanta. I want to also provide something for the adults to do while we are conducting draw change with the children. Usually our programs are set up so we are always at the shelters when the parents or caretakers, whoever the children are there with, are taking some sort of class, continuing education class. But that's not the case right now. For example, at this homeless shelter, Draw Change is the very first volunteer program that they have allowed back at the shelter. So that says a lot, and I'm honored that that's the case. However, that tells you that for 6 months, however long it's been, these parents and children have not had any outside interaction whatsoever, because the families have not been allowed to leave the homeless shelter. So they trust us, they trust me, and by the way, there's waivers upon waivers that we're signing with the shelter, and my volunteers are also signing, but they trust me, so they are allowing me to also bring a volunteer, provide some sort of relaxing activity for the caretakers of the homeless shelter. So right now I have a yoga instructor lined up, and I also have a friend that's going to be doing tea time with the adults, and they're going to be making their own tea and using aromatherapy with that, and just talking about adult stuff while they don't have their children present. For example, like I mentioned, we had 15 children last week, 15 children this week, and that only consisted of 4 families. So at this homeless shelter, they accept any family composition, which means often the families are large families. So the caretakers need some alone time and need some adult time. So last week, one of the caretakers asked my yoga instructor, can I just go to sleep? And she was like, oh my goodness, yes, please go to sleep. Feel free to, this is your hour to just do whatever you want. So if you're interested in doing anything like that with the adults or children, you are more than welcome to apply to volunteer, drawchange.org. And thank you all so much for watching. As always, let me know if any questions come up in the comment box, and I will see you all soon. Bye.